Well, fun fact, guys. If you were looking for a dead kingdom in 2022, it is as simple as a Google search. We live in a time where now you can actually determine how active kingdoms are. I kid you not. And the same system that is allowing them to do this is also the same people that have made the shield bot, and they are also another benefactor of the guild bot that we all know and seen in the game. So, in case you're wondering, yeah, people can determine how active a kingdom is. They can figure out what guilds are in what kingdoms. It's all publicly available information now. They can determine which guilds are in what ranking in what kingdom on a daily basis. They can determine how many active players, how many inactive players are in the kingdom. They've got metrics now that, frankly, it gives a pretty surprising amount of information, and that's pretty bad for this game. Now, where is it going to take us? I don't know. My prediction for the game right now is that if it's allowed to continue like it has been, right? We got the Sanctuary update, which effectively I got zeroed like 3 or 4 days ago, and out of a 14 million troop comp, I was able to get about 6 or 7 million or so of my troops back, so about 50% of them back. I was able to rebuild right before KVK, and as you guys all know, that didn't really do so bad. But the outrageous situation that we find ourselves in with the shield tracker bot is frankly that, obviously you've got a lot of people out there that are probably going about and abusing it. And if you're wondering how do you fight against it, I really think the only way to fight against it is, you have to get used to either shielding in 3 to 4 day, 7 day periods, or you've pretty much going to have to roll your hands up and say screw it, because the shield tracker bot has gotten to the point where effectively all they have to do is have a Discord bot in their Discord channels, which is what it is, right? They're paying $80 a month for this, and they're basically getting tabs on every single player in a kingdom. It doesn't matter what kingdom. They can even look up different kingdoms now, and they can pretty much fetch whether or not you're in Fury, whether or not you're, I mean, there's even some out there that, rumor has it, they even can keep track of what gear you were wearing earlier. Anything on the surface level of this. They won't really know anything like private, which would be like, things like, for example, they're not going to know wall heroes. They're not going to know things like maybe individual stats of your core stats or any of this stuff. They're not going to be able to pick up or fetch any of this kind of information, as far as I know. I know, but as far as like troop count goes, they can filter even on that. So a lot of that information is kind of publicly available, which is not exactly a great standard by any means, but I think IGG is ultimately going to have to do something about this, because in order for them to be able to do this, I mean, you can do this with some different coding languages that scrape information off the internet. Namely, Node.js is a really popular framework for this type of stuff. And again, this isn't like HTML scraping. This is, and in my mind, the only way I could see someone being able to do this would be to be able to query the server directly. And that would imply that, you're either using the Steam API and using games on Steam. Like, for example, somebody would open up Steam and they're doing it through those means, or alternatively, they've got some way to be able to decrypt the traffic and actually query the server and determine what kind of information it's giving them on their client to be able to decipher a lot of this information. It's like, and in order for them to do this, I feel like, there's obviously a serious breach there of sorts. Not necessarily the breach in which, it's maybe it's not like, how do you say, it's like, in order to prevent this problem, you really, I feel like they've got to get to the source of the issue, which is really that we have effectively a group of people out there that have discovered that they can develop something that, while it is technically not against the policy of the game, I guess, because that's, I think, what their main defense of it is, or at least that's what I've heard, that's what their defense of it is. But, I mean, really, ultimately, the people that are supporting and producing the automation programs that they are, effectively are bringing the game to a standstill. Because, if you find yourself in a situation where you're shielded, you forget to shield, you get unshielded, you get zeroed, or you get rallied, somebody rallies you, and then they can find you regardless of where you port to. Well, yeah, it takes a little bit of the fun out of the game. And so it's kind of sad that we're at that point in 2022. But I just thought I'd go ahead and bring it up. Now, as to how to actually deal with it, I mean, as far as I know, if you change your name, if you change castle skins, if you were to swap out your hero, if you swap out, and you're bouncing around, like if you're not in the same position, I know that the refresh rate is anywhere between 0 and 30 seconds. So there, to some extent, you can kind of obscure it, right? You have some control, not a lot, but some control. But it's definitely to a ridiculous degree that no one should have to go through. But ultimately, I bring all of this up because, it's I feel like I've mentioned it briefly on the channel, but my stance on this is that ultimately, in order for this to ever change, I feel like IGG is going to have to step in and effectively put an end to it in order for the game to continue in the way that it has been. Because otherwise, I really just don't see how people are going to continue to keep up with that, at least in the major kingdoms or even in the most active kingdoms, because it's just too freaking easy for somebody to take advantage of that and use it to their own benefit. I mean, it's just frankly pretty disappointing that we've gotten to that point in the game. That said, just thought I'd bring it up, highlight the fact that it's a problem, but will IGG do anything about it? I don't know what you guys are personally thinking on this subject, but I know that a majority of people that I've talked to would all formally agree that bots are bad, right? But a lot of people will look the other way with banks and stuff because it's like, well, that's how all the wonder battles occur. Like, you gotta have banks. The thing is it's like ever since there have been alternative accounts, then people have always had an excuse to be able to effectively build bot arrays. It's just now we're getting to a point where people have noticed that artificial intelligence is in fact, frankly, more difficult to deal with. And if you've got enough information at your fingertips and you're fighting against a computer, it's kind of like playing chess against a computer. More often than not, you lose. And that's just not a game that anybody wants to play with their fucking credit card. That said, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully IGG does something about this. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. See you guys.